I might just start on a report out today that business owners are actually struggling to get staff. The biggest issue they've got is a lack of applications. Scott Morrison says that maybe JobSeeker is too generous. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think the comments from the Prime Minister, Tom, were really unfortunate and disappointing. I think, we've heard for the last few months we're all in this together. It's a really difficult time. We've got 1 million more people on unemployment benefits at the moment, and that's increased from March from 700,000 to about 1.7 million people. We know there's not a lot of jobs out there. 12 people on the unemployment queue for every job. And I think really the focus of the Prime Minister should be about responding in the July statement with some certainty for people, but also supporting those back to work and continuing to focus on those who, unfortunately, through no fault of their own, have found themselves on the unemployment queue.
But does it mean that things such as JobSeeker across the board, a doubling of that, could have a perverse incentive? I mean, if someone is looking for a regular hospitality job, 20 to 25 hours, that's less money or about the same as they'd get in JobSeeker. We can't have that sort of incentive ongoing, can we?
Well, I think what we need to see from the government is their holistic response on this. We need to know what the short and longer term plan is, not just for JobSeeker but JobKeeper. We know, and the government should confirm this, that people cannot go back to living on $40 a day. But they need to respond. They're the government. They've got the advice from Treasury. They understand what the budget looks like at the moment, and they need to respond compassionately. We're going to have a lot of people on the unemployment queue for a lot longer than many would like to be there, and they need to be able to put food on the table and look after their families and supported back into work. And that's going to mean that the snapback that supposedly is due to occur at the end of September isn't going to happen, and we need to provide ongoing support to them going forward and perhaps for some months to come.
So on JobSeeker, one of the figures mooted was another $150 from the normal amount per fortnight. Would that be enough for people to put food on the table, as you just phrased it?
Well, again, we haven't been prescriptive about a figure. We think it's best that the government, with the advice of their economic advisors, make those decisions, and we'll see what they come up with. We have been very clear that it should not revert to $40 a day. It's not enough, and I think you'll find right across the sector, business community, community services sector, everyone acknowledges that. So it has to be increased. The government should be compassionate about how they do that and make sure that what they do land on is enough for people to be not only support their day-to-day living, particularly at the moment when we're in a recession, but also support them in a dignified life of being able to get back into the labour market over time. And, we're giving the government room to make those decisions. We are not the government. We cannot govern from opposition, but we want the government to take this seriously. And I think any idea of a snapback, everyone acknowledges, is ridiculous. And the sooner the government provides some certainty about that, the better it'll be for people. It's a bit cruel at the moment for people to be wondering, well, one being the sort of demonising or the beginning of the demonising of the unemployed, the language around that, but also the uncertainty. It's only, just over 90 days till this money is due to disappear, and I think people are genuinely worried, both on JobKeeper and on JobSeeker.
Well, just the final one on JobSeeker, though. Surely Labor doesn't need the full power and resources of government and Treasury to know what someone can get by on. That, yes, you can talk about what figure is affordable, but putting the $150 over a fortnight increase, you can assess whether or not that's enough for someone to be able to put food on the table, as you put it.
Well, we're listening to what a whole range of people are saying. I know before coronavirus hit, there was a view that, a minimum lift needed to be $75 a week, and that was a view shared by many. But we know I had the Chamber of Commerce and others before us in the COVID committee last week, and they had a different way. They were suggesting, you could link it more to a percentage of the age pension. So there are different models out there, and I guess what we are saying is we're not being prescriptive. We're not demanding a certain figure from the government at this stage. We haven't had a budget update formally since December last year, so we're not privy to the state that the budget is in, as it is now, and the government should be making these decisions. But we are giving them a framework, like be compassionate, be supportive, make sure it's enough to look after people, particularly with the impact of the pandemic on the labour market going to be with us for some time to come.
The situation, according to the ANU, on people unable to pay their mortgage or their rent on time has doubled even from April to May, from 7% to 15%. This feeds into the current moratorium on evictions, and that covers obviously people, again, renting or paying off a home loan. What should happen at this point? At the end of September, this is where the moratorium's set to end. Does Labor have a view on what the solution is if you've still got a high number of people in stress?
Yeah, look, I mean, we have been saying for some months this idea of a miraculous snapback at the end of September is just ridiculous, that it's not going to happen, and we've known that for some time. It's not just the moratorium on evictions for renters and mortgage deferrals, it's JobKeeper and JobSeeker. So it's all tied in together, and obviously, come July 23rd, we would expect a holistic response from the government. We would prefer that they were giving us a heads up now in terms of JobKeeper, and I think the JobSeekers linked to that. But they have to be providing some certainty and confidence going forward that these deferrals and these payments aren't just going to disappear, because the reality is the factors that are leading to that stress, mortgage stress and rental stress, are directly linked to the state of the economy. And we know that particularly around jobs and job vacancies and unemployment, that's not going to disappear in September. So some of these measures are going to have to exist in some form going forward and have to be pegged really to how we see the recovery going in the economy and the time that it's going to take. And, I would expect that the government should be working with the banks and other providers and the state and territory governments through National Cabinet about how all of these measures and the levers available to the private sector and state, territory and federal governments work together.
So in terms of what the banks can do, though, they've already been asked to carry a fair load there for 6 months. Do you think it's fair enough that they can't just ask to defer again? There's only so long they can do that for.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the regulators need to be involved in that discussion. There needs, I think across the board, the tapering and targeting of some of this assistance that's been pushed in at a crisis stage has to be reshaped for the recovery. And, we understand for many people, a deferral really just kicks the can down the road. I mean, many are still accruing interest. This will have to be paid at some point. So we do need to be sensible, but I think it needs close collaboration across government and the private sector to make sure that the recovery strategy, as opposed to the crisis measures, support the economy and support people to get back into work, because that's, getting this unemployment numbers down is really key to making sure that the economy recovers over the longer term, and some of these measures can be wound back after that occurs.